All right, now we're going to look at equations of circles. So if you're in pre-calculus, I'm taking this from page 22 out of your textbook, and equations of circles all fall back to this equation right here. R squared is equal to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. This equation is the exact same thing as the distance formula. And so if we're looking at a circle, we're calling the center point h, and actually it's h comma k. I had that written down wrong. So the center point is at h comma k. The radius is length r, and then a point on the circle. Any point that's on the circle going around, we're going to call it x comma y. So how is this related to the distance formula? Well, think about it. The radius is the distance from the center of the circle to a point that is on the circle. So if you take the distance between x, y, and hk, you're going to get the radius r. And so just like how we've dealt with the distance formula earlier, you could use the distance formula to write the equation of a circle or to come up with this equation of the circle. I'll get into that in another video if you want, but for right now I'm just going to focus on these couple of problems. So the first one I'm going to look at is number 70. It says suppose you have a circle centered at 0, 0, and they give you the radius of 5. What is the equation of that circle? Well, remember, this is the center, so we're going to label it HK. And I just want you to write it out. The equation of the circle, r squared is equal to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And then all you got to do is just substitute your values in. If you know the radius and you know the center, all it is just substitution. So the radius is 5. 5 goes in for r, so you get 5 squared. X minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared. And then clean it up. If you have minus negatives here, make them plus positives. If you have minus zeros here, get rid of that 0. So you end up with x squared, and then y minus 0 is y, so you get y squared there. And make sure you square your radius. 5 squared is 25. So there's your equation for that particular circle. Remember, this works backwards as well. So I could have asked you, what is the center and the radius of the circle if this is the equation? So you say, what did I put into the original equation up here that just got x by itself? Well, I must have subtracted nothing from it. So that tells you the h is 0. Same for over here, the k must be 0 because y is by itself. And then to find the radius, you just take the square root of whatever that number is by itself over there. So the square root of 25 is 5, and that's the radius. Just be prepared to go one way or the other with these. Now sometimes they don't give you the center. Sometimes they want you to find the center. Sometimes they don't give you the radius. Sometimes they don't give you either one. But the main thing is you've got to know the center and you've got to know the radius, and then it's just a matter of substitution. Let's look at another one. So this time I'm going to look at number 72. It gives us a center of -7, -4, and a radius of 7. So -7, -4 is our center, and the radius is 7. So once again, I'm going to write it out. R squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Label your points, h, k, and I know I've got x minus something squared plus y minus something squared. So when you put these in, -7 goes in right here. And the reason why I wrote it out like this, where I put the negative in first, is because sometimes students forget that there's already a minus sign in there. And you don't want to end up subtracting 7 when you're supposed to be adding 7 here. Same thing over here with this negative. And then I get 7 squared right there. So this gives me 49 is equal to x plus 7 squared. Remember, we got to clean up our negatives. Minus negatives, we clean them up. Y minus a -4 is y plus 4. And this here is our answer. So there, once again, they gave me the center and they gave me the radius, made it nice and easy for me. Let's look at a case where they don't. So jump down to number, let's do number 76. Sometimes they give you the endpoints. So if we have the endpoints to be -4, -1, and 4, 1. Now, these are endpoints on a circle. So if we're looking at our circle, you've got one point right here, say that's 4, 1, and then -4, 1. And so it's the endpoints of a diameter. Remember, a diameter goes through the center of a circle. To write the equation of this circle, we need the center and we need the radius. So I'm going to start by finding the center of this circle. Why? Because I know since this is a diameter, the center must be exactly halfway between the two endpoints. So I need to find the midpoint. So to find midpoint, I'm going to add up the two locations and then divide by 2. -4 plus 4 is 0. -1 plus 1 is 0. Well, if I divide both of those by 2, I'm still going to end up with the same thing, 0, 0 in this case. So the center is at the origin. To find the radius, well, I'm going to use the equation of a circle. The radius squared is equal to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. I don't know my radius, that's what I'm trying to find. I do know a point on the circle. I'm going to pick this point right here, 4, 1, and I know this center to be 0, 0. So it's going to be x minus 0. I don't need to write an x though. I know that x is 4 minus 0 squared plus 1 minus 0 squared equals my radius squared. Well, 4 squared is 16, 1 squared is just 1, and so I get r squared to be 17. That means that r is equal to the square root of 17. So the radius is the square root of 17. So my equation here, going back to this spot right here, this equation, when I fill it out, r squared equals 17. And then my center is at 0, 0, so I end up with x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared. So there's the equation for my circle. And so the next one we'll look at is number 78. It's x squared plus y squared equals 16. And they want you to identify the center and the radius and sketch it. So x squared plus y squared equals 16. Well, going back to that original equation, r squared is equal to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. What did I put in for h to give me just x squared? Well, any value but 0 is going to give me x minus something or x plus something, so it must be 0. So I know that h must equal 0. And if we look at y, y is going to be the same situation. I must have put k in for 0 to get just y by itself right there. So I know the center of this thing is at 0, 0. I'm going to go ahead and plot the center of that circle. And then what did I put in for r to get 16 right here? What squared is 16? Well, it must be 4. So the radius is equal to 4. So go out 1, 2, 3, 4. You go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And our sketch, I've got an advantage because I've got a computer to sketch it out, is going to look like that. Most of the time when I'm drawing this by hand, though, it looks like a flat tire because it's very hard. Here, I'll show you. It's very hard to sketch these out by hand. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 2, 3, 4. It's even harder to draw it on the computer. If I'm drawing on the whiteboard in class, I'll show you I can make a perfect circle. But that's by hand in here. So let's look at one more. And so I'm going to do number 80 here. Number 80 says, let's look, x squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 1. So once again, look at it. What did I put in for h just to get x by itself? Well, it must have been 0. And then what did I put in for, not y, but what did I put in for k to get y minus 1? Think about that. Some students want to say -1, but notice if you put a -1 in for k, you get minus a -1. See, y minus is already there. Put a -1 in for k, you get y plus 1. We don't have y plus 1 right here. we have y minus 1. So we must have put in a positive 1 for k. So be careful with these. Whenever you look at these, you're going to take that opposite value. So if it's negative 1, you put in a 1. If it's positive 3, it means you put in a negative 3. Just be very careful with those. So that's my h and k. That's my center point, is at 0, 1. And so I'm going to graph that center point. 0, up 1, there's the center. And then my radius, what did I put in for r to get 1? Well, you can just take the square root of that, and it's going to be 1. So the radius is 1. So if we're sketching this out, it looks like this. Right? Well, hopefully that's helpful, and just let me know if you have any questions.